What's going on, guys? Nathan here. Today I'm going to give you 7 easy poker tips that you can literally take to the table right after you're done watching this video and start getting much better results. You're going to learn what hands to play, what positions to play from the poker table, when to bet, raise, bluff, when to fold your hand, when to re-raise them all in. I'm going to break it all down for you in today's video. Counting down from 7 to 1. Here we go. Number 7 is to always pay attention to your kicker. So guys, in No Limit Texas Hold'em, you are dealt 2 cards face down. You already know that. Never show anyone else your cards at the table. But guys, the biggest thing is when you hit a pair, as we're going to talk about in a second here, top pair, the other card in your hand is tremendously important. In fact, it plays a massive statistical role in if you're going to win the hand or not. So let me give you an example here. As you see on your screen, Ace King on the flop of Deuce King 5 is 87% to win this hand versus King Jack. And the reason why is because King Jack has a worse kicker. When both players in this situation have paired the top card, the ace kicker beats the jack kicker because we're looking for the best 5-card hand in poker, guys. And there's only 3 more jacks remaining in the deck, and that is why King Jack only has 12% chance to win this hand. Guys, this is not a situation you want to be in. So the simple lesson here is to avoid playing dominated hands like King Jack, King 10, King 9. I'm not saying to never play those hands. There is a time and a place, and I'm going to have some charts in a second telling you when to play those hands. But by and large, guys, you want to stick to big hands like an Ace King, an Ace Queen. These are hands that are very, very likely to have the best kicker if they hit top pair. All right, let's move on to easy way number 6 to quickly improve your poker game, and that is to understand basic pre-flop hand reading. All right, guys, so I put the image on your screen here. This is one of these spots that my students struggle with the most, so I want to break it down for you in this video. So guys, the simple idea is to pay attention, watch where people raise from at the poker table. So I put a 6-player poker table on your screen. You've got early position, middle position, cutoff, button, small blind, and big blinds. Now, if you play in a 9-player poker game, that's okay. The strategy is only slightly different. There's just 3 more seats at the table, which are added in between EP and MP. So guys, let me break this down for you. 3 different things you need to know here. When they raise from EP and MP, these are the first seats to act pre-flop. That's before the dealer puts the flop down, and this is when you get dealt your 2 cards face down. EP and MP, early position, middle position, these are the seats that are first to act. So what does this mean? When somebody raises or plays a hand from these seats, in general, they have a stronger hand on average because they know that everyone else at the table still gets to act after them, and therefore the chances simply go up that somebody has a big hand behind them. So typically when somebody raises, especially from one of these seats, you want to respect it more. It typically means that they're risking more because they know that there's a lot of players left to act behind them. Whereas on the complete flip side, if somebody raises from the button or the cutoff, which are the 2 steal seats, meaning that these are the best seats at the table to steal the blinds from, typically people will raise with a very wide range of hands in this situation. In fact, we're going to talk about exactly what hands to play in just a sec with some charts for you. But guys, bottom line, I am playing the majority of my hands from the button and the cutoff because these are the 2 most profitable seats at the table, which I've discussed in these videos many times before. So I am playing all sorts of speculative hands like a 10-8 suited and ace-3 suited and so on. Again, the charts will be coming up in a second here. So the bottom line, guys, is when somebody raises from these seats, you don't want to respect it nearly as much. Most people play the majority of their hands from these seats. And guys, finally, from the blinds, if somebody raises from the small blind in particular, it's been folded to them and they raise from the small blind, very often they have a weak hand. You shouldn't respect it too much. And the reason why is because they only have 1 seat left to beat, which is you sitting in the big blind. But guys, commit this to memory. This is how you do basic hand reading before the flop. Let's move on to easy way number 5 to quickly improve your poker game, and that is to just call versus aggressive players. So guys, the number 1 player type that people ask me about, and my students as well, is aggressive players, the ones that are always trying to bluff you. You can never put them on a hand. So let me explain how to play against them right now. Guys, a simple rule here is you never want to fight fire versus these players. Do not play into their game because this is exactly what they do. You're not going to beat a bluffing master by trying to out-bluff them. Instead, you just want to flat call them in position. And when I say in position, I'm specifically talking about the button and the cutoff that we just talked about in the previous slide here. Why is that the case? Because those are the seats where you get to act last on the flop, turn, and river, which is a massively proven statistical advantage in poker and is going to help you tremendously to outplay these aggressive players who love to bluff. So if I've got a hand like pocket nines, for example, 2 red nines on the button, and a loose and aggressive player has raised it in early position, middle position, as we just talked about, guys, you just want a flat call in a situation like this. I know it can be difficult. Pocket nines is one of the best hands in the game. I think it's around the 7th best hand, and it is likely that we do have the best hand at this point, but you don't want to get into one of these raise, re-raise wars with these loose and aggressive players. When you have a hand like pocket nines here, guys, just flat call and outplay them after the flop. And we're going to talk about how to do that just in a second here. But guys, bottom line, do not try to out-bluff the loose and aggressive players unless you've literally got pocket aces, pocket kings, ace king here. Just flat call and outplay them after the flop. All right, guys, moving on to easy way number 4 to quickly improve your game, and that is to, of course, play the right hands. So I've got the image up on your screen here for a 6-player game and a 9-player poker game. The hands in red are the ones that you want to play in a 6-player game. I am going to suggest that you play roughly the top 20% of all hands dealt to you, and in a 9-player game, the top 15%. Why? The reason you're probably asking, is there a difference? Guys, the reason is in a 9-player poker game, there are of course more players at the table, which means the chances that somebody has something go up considerably. Therefore, you want to have better starting hand selection standards in order to give yourself a mathematical advantage going into the hand. But bottom line, guys, study these 2 charts, play the hands in red, and again, you're gonna have a strong mathematical advantage entering most hands of poker, and there is literally nothing else that I or anyone else can teach you in a poker video to get you quickly winning more than this. Play the right hands, put yourself in a mathematically advantageous position, and you're gonna have a lot more success. All right, guys, moving on to tip number 3 now, and that is to c-bet most flops. So we just talked about what hands to play. Now you want to know what to do on the flop. So guys, there are so many different types of flop textures. I actually broke these down in detail in my second book, Modern Small Stakes. I listed 10 or 12 different flop textures. I will link that up in the description below if you're curious, but here are 3 of them. Ace of hearts, king of spades, queen of clubs. I call this a triple Broadway flop. Broadway cards are any cards that are 10 and above. Next flop is an ace of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, deuce of clubs. This is an ace high flop, another really good flop for us to bet. And the last one is a paired flop, the 7-7-8. Guys, these 3 flops and many others, in fact, most flops that you go to, when you raise pre-flop and you just get one caller, you want to be making a c-bet the vast majority of the time. And what is a c-bet, by the way? A c-bet is a continuation bet. So you've already raised pre-flop. All of the hands that I talked about in the chart before, you should be raising those. I've talked about that in depth in other videos here on the channel, including what amounts to bet. You can go check those out. But once you go see the flop, guys, you want to be making a bet the vast majority of the time. And the reason why, by the way, is because, guys, when you see the flop in poker, statistically, you're going to miss it 2 out of every 3 times, meaning you have no pair, no draws. So if we just apply a little bit of pressure, we've already built some aggression before the flop by betting roughly half of the pot, which is what I would suggest. So for example, the pot's $10, you bet $5. If we just bet a small amount like this, lean on them some more, most of the time we know they don't have anything, and you can simply get them to throw away their hand right now. Let's move on to easy poker strategy number 2 that you need to know, and that is to only slow play versus aggressive players. So guys, we just talked about how you want to be firing again on the flop most of the time after you raise before the flop. And now let's talk about the one situation where I will check and slow play, as they call it, and that is versus highly aggressive poker poker players. Guys, versus players who I know love to bluff raise me, for example, I will often take a hand like top pair, like an ace king on the king 8-10, and I will check it to them instead of betting, because I think that there is a better chance to be able to get more money out of them by pretending that I am weak. This is one of the best ways to beat the aggressive players in today's games, but let me be clear, guys, this only works versus those 5% of highly aggressive players in today's games versus the vast majority of players. When you hit top pair, or if you have nothing at all, as we just discussed, you want to be betting on the flop and often on the turn and river, by the way, as well, and you're gonna have a lot more success. All right, guys, moving on to my number one tip to quickly improve your poker results, and that is to never pay off the nits. All right, so we've talked about the aggressive players a lot in today's video. Let's close up here by talking about the tight passive players, which are also called nits or rocks. Guys, winning poker players know to never pay these players off. This is literally the number one thing that sets me on tilt, that gets me frustrated, is when I pay off these players. Once again, do not play into their game. Let me give you an example. You've got pocket aces, the best hand ever created, ace of spades, ace of diamonds, and a nit raises you on the turn of 9 of diamonds, jack of spades, 8 of diamonds, 5 of clubs. Guys, let me tell you, as a 10+ year professional poker player, this player type in particular is literally never bluffing you on this board. No, they got a hand instead like pocket 9s, pocket jacks, pocket 8s, pocket 5s, maybe they flop the straight with a queen 10. Basically something that is far ahead of your one pair hand. Guys, never forget that pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, these are just one pair. And often when somebody wants to play a massive pot, when they raise you on the turn or river, which I call the big money streets in poker, I talk about this in my first book, by the way, Crushing the Micro Stakes. I will also link that up in the description below. I have a chapter in the book called The Turn Raise is Usually the Nuts, and the next chapter is The River Raise is Always the Nuts. And the nuts is just a slang term in poker for the best hand possible, or one of the best hands possible. Guys, when the tightest player at the table like this raises you on the turn of the river, they literally always have you crushed. They are way ahead of your one pair hand. In fact, many times they have you drawing completely dead here. If they have a straight, for example, there is no card in the deck that you can catch on the river to win with your pocket aces. So versus these players in particular, you need to be throwing your hand away in this situation. All right, guys, like and subscribe if you found this one helpful, and if you want to know my entire strategy to smash the small and mid stakes games, make sure you grab a copy of my free poker cheat sheet. That'll be the top link in the description below. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. All the best of the poker tables. I will catch you next time.